Thank you once again, our viewers, for joining us on the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. I am glad that you could make time, and join us in our breakfast show this morning, where we'll be looking at various issues, specifically on the challenges affecting rural communities. I am your host, Miriam Kaimba, and in studio, I am not alone. I am joined by my beautiful colleague, Zipporah. Good morning.
Good morning, my beautiful colleague Miriam, and good morning to our viewers out there. It's a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday.
Yeah, looking forward to tomorrow, International Women's Day.
Oh, it's tomorrow, International Women's Day. But me, I'm a girl, Miriam.
But anyway,
big girl.
You celebrate with them. You celebrate with them. So it's very, very important, that we appreciate the role that women continue to play in society. But anyway, right about now, Zipporah, before we, we go into details about talking what we have this morning, let us go direct into our healthy corner and see what the doctors have for us this morning.
Hi. Good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya. So this week we are talking about another exciting topic, and this month being Women's Month, we are going to focus more on conditions that affect women. So we'll be talking more about diseases that affect women. And so this week we are going to talk about a condition that is very common among women, and it's a very common condition in our country here. So we're going to talk about cervical cancer. So cervical cancer is cancer of the cervix. And so this week we're going to talk about what is cervical cancer, the signs and symptoms of cervical cancer, and how does this cervical cancer come about. And we'll also talk about how you can prevent cervical cancer as an individual. What can you do to prevent yourself from getting cervical cancer? So today we'll talk about what is cervical cancer. Before we talk about cervical cancer, let us talk about the cervix. The cervix is an organ that is found in a female body, and it's an organ which is found between the uterus and the vagina. So it separates the uterus from the vagina, and it has got different functions. One of the functions is that it helps to prevent infections from entering the uterus, and it also protects the vagina by keeping it moist and producing certain fluids that keep the vagina moist and also prevent infections in the vagina. Then it also helps to act as a barrier when you are pregnant or when you're carrying a baby in the uterus. It helps to keep the baby in the uterus, and so it helps to act as a barrier. So now, what is cervical cancer? So cervical cancer is a cancer that affects the cervix, and we have already mentioned where the cervix is found and what it does. And so when there is cervical cancer, there is a growth that is occurring in the cervix, and this growth usually comes about by so many factors. Usually it is caused by a virus that we call human papilloma virus. So this virus will usually affect the cervix, and it will cause abnormal growth in the cervix. And because of this abnormal growth, we definitely will call it a cancer, because it will have abnormal features. And so that is what cervical cancer is. If you would like to know more about how cervical cancer comes about, then make sure that you watch again tomorrow, when we'll be talking about some of the causes of cervical cancer. If you haven't watched the other videos last week and in the previous weeks, make sure that you also watch the videos on my YouTube channel at Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya Siameka on YouTube. And so, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
Quite interesting there. I hope you took one or two things from the health corner, and like we always say, it's better to practice than just hearing. Miriam, we always say, like, when people hear what the doctors have to say, we practice them, because we find that we keep giving ourselves these home remedies for different kinds of stuff.
And just a reminder, the doctors are there to provide healthy tips. If you see that the disease has persisted, please go to a nearest healthy facility. Very, very important.
Definitely. Just now take a look at how our kwacha is faring against major international convertibles. So we have the great British pound buying at 23 kwacha 19 way, selling at 24 kwacha 37 way. The United States dollar buying at 19 kwacha 89 ngwe, selling at 20 kwacha 28 ngwe. The euro buying at 21 kwacha 19 ngwe, selling at 21 kwacha 61 ngwe. And the South African rand buying at 1 kwacha 09 ngwe, selling at 1 kwacha 11 ngwe. So Miriam, our US dollar on the buying side is also quickly chasing, towards the 20 kwacha mark, and on the selling side is quickly chasing, towards the 21 kwacha mark. Your thoughts on that?
Zippo, like I said, we continue hoping that, by the end of maybe June, somewhere there, we'll be able to see progress and, our kwacha appreciating again. Because already we have been affected by this. When you go in these supermarkets, different places, you'll find that the prices of commodities have gone up, and they continue to affect the common majority of citizens in the country. And this is very bad. Already we are complaining about the high cost of living. And we have now these prices of commodities going up. It's quite sad, but we hope for the best.
Yeah, definitely, because like you said, the concern is on the cost of living, where things are expensive, and we're looking at the year 2030 when we want to reduce poverty. In fact, eradicate, meaning there's been zero poverty, zero hunger. But really, are we on the right path?
We hope so. We hope so. Anyway, we have been told by the current administration that we are on the right path, and we pray that we'll be able to see, this achievement being fulfilled by the end of this year. We hope so.
Yes, definitely. And maybe just before we even move on, Miriam, maybe just a quick discussion on maybe some of the stories that made headlines yesterday, although we may not get to play them, but maybe we can just do a quick discussion. Yesterday we did see the issue of the LGBTQI. We heard strong voices from the church. We heard strong voices from politicians. So the church said they're going to protest. Politicians say they're going to protest. We heard the UPND, Religious Affairs Department, reminding us of the law, quoting, the law saying this is prohibited. We also heard a statement from the Minister of Information stating that this is against the law. But the question, Miriam, that has come from both the church and the clergymen is that they're not interested in the UPND condemning or reminding us what the law says.
They want action.
They're saying there was the Lusaka July event, no arrests were made. Now there's this, they're saying they've been summoned, when the police were actually giving them that escort. So their question, like from the story that I did, they're saying only arrests are going to send a strong message, not condemnation. So they're challenging the UPN, and the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia said since after the Lusaka July event there were no arrests made, and now if there would be no arrest made, they're going to walk on the streets, Miriam, because they're saying they're tired of talking, they're being taken for granted.
Basically, Zipporah, when people talk, they expect action. A lot of people did condemn last year. We did see a lot of various stakeholders coming on board and condemning this thing. But now, despite condemning, what action was being done? Like you said, no action was being made. No arrest was made. And then it only ends, no, these people were summoned and questioned and interrogated. Did we see any arrests being made? Because this is against our law. This is against the Constitution. And if someone is doing something which is against the law, that's a crime. They need to be arrested for that. So if we're going to end on condemning, then we have a problem. Exactly.
Area will just now transition to our main topic. We are going to be joined by Dundumwezi Constituency Member of Parliament, Mr. Edgar Singombe, who's going to help us discuss the challenges affecting rural areas. Now, Mr. Singombe also sits on the youth committee in Parliament, and with the upcoming Youth Day, he's also going to help us, highlight some of the issues affecting youths, especially in rural areas. For a long time, people in rural areas have complained that they have been left out from development. So he's going to help us discuss rural development today, and expect your calls as our viewers, both via the phone lines as well as through messages. We expect your participation as well as through messages on Facebook. So let us play a story from Dundumwezi constituency, and do join us in the conversation. While the floods being experienced in some parts of the country due to the heavy rain have brought concerns of human displacement, other concerns bordering on the well-being of farmers who depend on crops and livestock for a living have also risen. One such area affected by this calamity is Dundumwezi constituency in Southern Province, whose situation has concerned Area Member of Parliament Edgar Singombe, as most crops have been submerged, whilst more livestock has been carried away by the water, a situation which he says calls for the distribution of relief food to affected farmers. Mr. Singombe adds that the floods have also cut the Dundumwezi-Iteshteji road into two parts, making trade difficult.
The situation is bad in some areas, like I've indicated, because most of their crops have been submerged in water. And you know, with a lot of water, it means that there's nothing that you can salvage from there. So there's need to ensure that farmers are assisted in one way or another in terms of relief, food relief, clothing, and so forth. But again, when we come to relief, I think it must be categorized. For me, I would say we need those that require 100% relief. There are some, because right now people have started at least eating the fresh maize, but it's not enough for a family just to live on fresh maize. We also probably require those who say maybe they provide us what we call food for work, because some certain areas are very difficult to pass. So we needed to find a way of probably helping certain areas, because most of the bridges have been washed away.
Meanwhile, Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit DMMU National Coordinator Dr. Gabriel Pollen says the unit will distribute food to areas that have been affected adversely according to the crop survey that will be given by the Ministry of Agriculture.
Now, the good part about it is that some of those households already have adequate nourishment for this period. It's only during the lean period that the government comes in through elevation of intervention in terms of relief provision. So what the government does at the particular point is to ascertain which areas are the surplus areas and which areas are the deficit areas. And through the redistribution mechanism, the government deploys its architecture of resource reallocation and directs relief to those areas that are hardest hit in terms of deficit.
The MP, however, states that by next year, most of the roads that have been cut off will be worked on, as the current Constituency Development Fund, CDF, is mostly being used to procure machinery for roadworks. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka. Thank you for staying tuned in. Just now we have been joined by Dundumwezi Constituency Member of Parliament, Mr. Edgar Singombe. Now the phone lines are open, so you can pass on the numbers that are scrolling on your screen to participate or leave us messages on Facebook. We are discussing factors affecting rural communities, and particularly we are zooming in on the Dundumwezi constituency, as well as maybe expectations for youths in rural areas now that we are going to celebrate Youth Day on 12th March 2023. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning, ladies, and how is this morning?
No, it's a wonderful morning. We're happy to see you here. I think it's your first time to feature here on the Breakfast Show.
Yeah, this is my first time. I've never been here, and I'm glad to be here this morning.
We are glad having you on set as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Maybe just to begin with, when people hear Dundumwezi, they just remember that 2016 issue.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about your constituency?
Thank you so much. Dundumwezi constituency is a constituency lying in northern part of Kalomo. 2010 census indicates that it has about 80,000 in terms of population. Mm-hmm. Basically, it is an agricultural area, and we are part of Kalomo district. And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I'm the 7th member of parliament there. Mm-hmm. And you may wish to know that actually my father was also an MP.
Oh, interesting.
From 1983 up to the end of the UNIP era. And since then, in between my father and myself, there are 3 members of parliament. Mm. Yeah. So basically, that is the constituency. It's an agriculture area.
But in terms of development, do you feel Dundumwezi has been highlighted, or has it remained one of the least developed constituencies to date?
I want to state that Dundumwezi has been one of the least developed constituencies. One, we just got connected to the national grid in 2021. And I want to
For the first time ever?
For the first time, and it was the only constituency in Southern Province that was not connected to the national grid. The other measurement that we used during campaign was that I think so far it's the only constituency that is lying outside the periphery of the province and has no grain of tarmac. Yes, other constituencies have tarmac, and I could say maybe dilapidated. It could be, but it indicates that at least once in the past there was a better road. But talking about Dundumwezi, it has never been given all-weather road. Dundumwezi was the last constituency to be given or allocated with communication towers. So this is one measurement that we gave ourselves, and it was very easy to actually tell the people where we were and what could be the solutions for us to better our lives. So we were among the least development. Talk about road infrastructure. The last time Dundumwezi received what would term as a road was 1996. Okay, this road, the Kalomo Chikanta Road, was done by Plowboy, a company from Zimbabwe. So from that time, we've never been given a road network. And you know, others would say that, but you've been an MP. Yes, you can be a woman in a home, but if you don't have a spouse, you don't have a child. So, yes, I've been an MP for quite some time now, but in the absence of a serious government, there's nothing that an MP can achieve. Because when you talk about road construction, vis-a-vis the Constituent Development Fund that we were receiving then, it was nothing to talk about, because 1.6 could only grade maybe less than a kilometer. Mobilization and everything, all your money is finished. So you look at health, you look at education, you look at the road. So mostly the little resources that we were getting would be channeled to addressing the health amenities, education, and so forth. But road construction was not on the list because the resources that we were receiving was too minute to venture into such huge activities. Secondly, you will also agree with me that from 2011 to 2021, or can I say in the past regime, CDF was not predictable. What used to happen was, in the MMD era, yes, CDF was predictable. You know, CDF is constitutional because it appears in the constitution that there shall be Constituency Development Fund. That interprets that it was supposed to be one of the things that was supposed to be followed religiously. But unfortunately, we had a regime that never cared. And I think in 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, we only received the CDF about 4 times. Okay? And the 5th one was 50% of the allocation. Now, think of 10 years, and then you receive 4 times. The question that should one ask is, how are you managing in the 5.5 years? It was literally nothing, because we're not receiving anything either from central government or from CDF, because from CDF, as I've alluded to, there was literally nothing to talk about.
Now, with the coming in of, the increased Constituency Development Fund to 28 million, is there any progress in your constituency? Are we able to say, okay, now the constituency is now developing?
Very good question. Very good question. Indeed. First of all, I want to thank the new Dawn government and the leader President Hakainde Hichilema for really living up to his campaign promises. You know, when he was campaigning, he put certain things very clearly, and true to his words. CDF has been increased from 1.6 to 25.7 in 2022 budget, and now 28.3. I think it's quite a big milestone that should be recognized by all Zambians, because this CDF goes everywhere. Previously, you may wish to know that I know of some constituencies. You remember I indicated that we received 4 and the other year it was 50%. But I can tell you that some of the constituencies received 100%. And those were constituencies that were held by ministers, cabinet ministers under the PF regime. But those in the opposition we never received the balance. So this time we have a regime that does not look at where you're coming from. They just look at, do you have an MP, do you have a constituency, are there Zambians there? And this money has been flowing, and the people never expected this. So with the, coming back to what this is likely to do, I want to tell you that it's already changing the lives of our people. As a constituency, because of the poverty levels that we had, we first of all decided to inject some kind of money in the pockets of the people. How did we do it? We say 2022, we are coming from a regime where people could not send children to school. We're coming from a regime where literally people had no money to do one or two things. So we decided to take all the money into projects. Let's talk about construction of infrastructure in the constituency. You're aware that government did employ 30,000 teachers, and we were also given a good number of our portion, and in some situations we had no staff accommodation. So we say we cannot sit and cry that there is no accommodation. I heard people were saying, you are sending teachers, where is the accommodation? You are sending, you are look at the schools, pupils are crowded. I said, but yes, but that is a good problem. Overcrowding is a good problem for me, unlike where we had no children in classes because people could not manage. So we took up this infrastructure development to ensure that we developed the constituency, and also we put some of the resources in people's pockets. And this is exactly that we did. And it's going on very well. We identified about 13 projects, and which are currently ongoing, though there are a bit of setbacks here and there. Secondly, 2022, we have an increased budget. I talked of dilapidated road infrastructure, and we have decided to procure our own equipment. And you should also, maybe you'd also wish to know that this is not the first time Dundumwezi is procuring equipment. In 2012, we were duped by the former regime, where they brought in people and said that there's a company in United Kingdom that would, where you can go and buy the road equipment. Of course, at that time, we saw some constituencies like Munali constituency, Kanyama constituency, Shuangandu, and a few others from the PF government. So we thought it was a good cause. And indeed, we spent money, and people were sent to the UK to go and inspect these pieces of equipment. And when they came back, we did release the money for road equipment. I want to tell you that to date we haven't received this equipment. And each time we pursued through government, we were told they're still investigating. And you discover that 3/4 of these constituencies that lost out on these projects are coming from Southern Province, and including maybe 1 or 2 from, is it Chama North or Chama South? But basically, a number of them were coming from Southern Province. We never received those pieces of equipment. And government continued giving us stories day in and day out. Now, 2023, we have decided again to go back because the issue of road infrastructure has never been addressed in Dundumwezi and many more constituencies. So we have procured this year, or we plan to procure a grader, a tipper, and a TLB. I think these three basic pieces will start addressing as we are planning to get some more equipment maybe in the coming budget 2024. So these are some of the things that we are planning to do, and I think the people of Dundumwezi are very excited because they have seen that what UPND says, it comes to actually deliver. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the things that indicate that we are on the right trajectory. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now there have been, various concerns, certain concerns coming from the members of the public. I don't know if you're facing the same in your constituency when you talk about high levels of youth unemployment and how they can, empower themselves. I don't know how effective people taking advantage, or rather how are people taking advantage of the Constituency Development Fund in ensuring that they form cooperative to empower themselves in your constituency, to be specific.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the New Dawn's vision is to ensure that actually people develop themselves. And in the CDF component, you are aware that the New Dawn government has put a certain percentage for youth grants and also for women, because these are mostly the most vulnerable or maybe marginalized groups. And indeed, the president has indicated that we need to empower the youths, we need to empower women because there is unemployment in this country. And we have to indeed take up that vision by ensuring that youths form cooperatives. And this is what they've been doing from the time the president indicated that youths should work in cooperatives. I want to state that because of the poverty levels, I have personally gone into the outskirts of the constituency, sat down with the youths, filled in forms with them, explained to them what they're supposed to do, and I took it upon myself to ensure I have not allowed them to come to Lusaka. After filling in these forms together, I would bring them, go to NYDC, and pay for them. Right now, we have given grants to over 20 youth groups in Dundumwezi. And we have done the same to our women folk. You remember tomorrow we have the Women's Day, and we have given, or we are giving, there are certain women groups that we deliberately said we shall give them their checks tomorrow. So just today in the evening, I'll be traveling back to the constituency to hand over these checks on Women's Day. So you discover that through these grants, we have now youths venturing into agriculture. You know, agriculture is the biggest sector that would employ our youths in the rural areas, coming from a background that a number of them could not proceed to go to colleges because of the high poverty levels. So we cannot sit and cry. Instead, we've told them, you can still do something in agriculture. And indeed, if you went to Dundumwezi today, you'll be surprised with what the youths are doing. The women are also in poultry, goat rearing. You know, one of the lucrative businesses in my constituency is a lot of women and the youths actually buy and sell goats. And with that business, I think it's very easy to start, because a goat now, maybe in the village, is costing about between 300 to 600. And when they come to Lusaka here, just at Kabesha there, they'll be able to sell it at maybe 1,000, 1,500. Some of them, they go to Kasumbalesa. And in the long run, what we intend to do is to ensure that the youths can have their own light trucks, Because right now they're paying about maybe 100, 150 for transportation. So we need to cut costs so that they can make actually enough money by ensuring that we give them their own transport. That way, I think the youth will be able to maximize this kind of business.
Now, Honorable, maybe are there some notable cooperatives, which have come out, which you have seen, they have come up with something tangible in your constituency? And then furthermore, some people have been stating that CDF for cooperatives should not just be used for agriculture or poultry, but should be taken advantage of to also venture into other areas like technology and all that to develop areas. So do you think people, additionally to the first question, do you think people have got the know-how of venturing into other areas apart from the traditional businesses? And are the funds even enough when you talk about 40,000 kwacha, 10,000 kwacha? Maybe your take on that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. But you also realize that this CDF is, it depends where you are. Let's talk about you want to do value addition in Kandazov where there is no power. What kind of value addition would you want to do? It's quite difficult because certain businesses will require that you are connected. I also want to state that this year there's a component that the Minister of Energy is getting from the CDF so that he can assist members of parliament who are not connected like Dundomwezi. And once we are 50–70% connected to the national grid, definitely we are going to diversify. But for now, we are kind of limited because of where we are and who we are. We cannot go into technology where there is no power. So we have to start from somewhere. Of course, we have small businesses like, for instance, maybe peanut butter production. Okay, we also intend to also go into milling. We have a number of solar power plants in the constituency. And I think what is required is to educate our people more. From this CDF, what I would have loved to see was probably where we have a component of motivators. I can be an MP, but not very good in business. Okay? People think an MP is everything. No, we must accept that for me, you take me into business, I'm not very good. Okay, but take me into agriculture. I've been born there. Okay? I can do literally anything in terms of agri. So our people in Dundomwezi, like I have indicated in the preamble, that we're basically an agriculture sector. So a lot of them are actually taking these resources into agriculture, but also using these solar milling plants that I've indicated. What we need to do is probably I've enticed few youths to go into packaging. Okay? If you came to Dundomwezi today, you can laugh your lungs out. You find when you have an agriculture show, someone will get a cob of maize and show it to the public. So the competition is the size of the cob of maize. And people are becoming to ask, what variety is this? You mentioned maybe it is Sidico 419. No, it's MRI 513. So basically, what is he promoting? He is not promoting himself, but instead he is promoting a seed company. So what do we need to do? What we need to do is to ensure that we don't just go with cobs of maize at an agriculture show. We need to go with an item that has been upgraded to some kind of. So what we need to do is, I've told youths to go into packaging. This year, come this year, July, we need to print probably about 100 bags of maize for our mini meal. Go to these small milling companies, solar milling companies in the constituency, mill the maize, package it nicely, and then go and supply the small semi-boarding secondary schools. This will definitely have an impact, positive impacts on our youths. Right now, all they know is You harvest, you put your maize either in second-hand bags and sell. But we should show them that actually from 1 hectare of maize you can mill and probably do your sample nicely, package it, and even come to places like Choma and ask some of these owners of shops and say, we have this product. So those are some of the things that we intend to do. But you realize that I'm not departing from agriculture because that's what we are.
I'll take you back to the Constituency Development Fund and the youth, benefiting from this same fund so that they form cooperative. Is there an auditing process that you do to ensure that there's effective assessing of the utilization of these funds? Because we know that, you give maybe a group of 10 youths 40,000 and then they later on misuse this money. Do you later on try to see their progress? And before that, do you do an auditing to ensure that there's effective utilization of these funds?
Yeah. No, that's a very good question, and it now helps me to bring in other aspects of what UPND government is trying to do. The president has said UPND is a methodical party. You'd wish to know that the New Dawn government, from the CDF allocation for 2022, has decided to purchase vehicles per constituency in all the 150 constituencies, which was not there before. Why? Because they knew the past regimes knew that there was no need to do such a thing because the vehicle costed more than the money that was allocated to constituencies. But now we have changed the narrative. We have more money. Talk of 25 million. At first, people never used to believe. Even our colleagues within Parliament disputed this. And I think, if not everyone, I think more than 99% of all the constituencies have received the CDF. And those who have not received the CDF, it's incumbent upon the residents of those communities to question their MP as to why they've not received the CDF. Because as far as I'm concerned, the Minister of Finance has released 100% this money to all the constituencies. So it's between an MP, individual MP, and probably the Minister of Local Government and Housing, who are actually the ones that disburses this money to particular districts. So UPND or the New Dawn government has bought vehicles, and they are still in the processes. I'm one of those who are waiting. Anytime I'll be receiving my Land Cruiser. So they are vehicles that have been purchased in line with what we have just asked, so that there is total and effective monitoring of these resources. So people are aware, all those who've received these resources from government, they've been told, even at our level as individual MPs. Talking for myself, I've already visited a number of them. I've visited areas where they are doing poultry. We have layers. I wish I had sent a clip so that viewers out there could have watched it. We have a number of women who are in goat rearing, and a number of them who are doing various pieces of works in the constituency. So it is actually, the program of monitoring is very, very effective. My colleague from Kalomo has received his Land Cruiser for the constituency, and I've seen it going around, for Kalomo Central to be precise. I've seen this Land Cruiser going around in his constituency doing the monitoring. So there is an effective way of monitoring these resources to ensure that people actually develop from where they are to a level where they'll be able to sustain themselves through these grants.
Quite interesting. We do have a message from one of our viewers on Facebook who says, my question to the MP for Dudumwezi is how best can CDF be used to develop rural areas, because while it is a good model, implementation seems to be slow. Further, rural areas are regarded as not part of Zambia. They are only visited during elections.
Yeah, I wish somehow it can be true, it cannot be true. I would call myself a rural MP. I've indicated to you that I was only connected to the national grid in 2021. And
does it mean the whole Dundumwezi there was no electricity, even at schools, hospitals, kindly, even at schools, hospitals?
Nothing. We were,
how do people take maybe the bodies of their loved ones? How do they, is that maybe, do they take it to the next town, to the mortuary, or?
When we say we are a rural and a rural constituency, I think such things, it's either you bury immediately, or you have to find transport to take to the nearest hospital, which is sometimes for us, it's Macha Mission Hospital, Choma General Hospital, and Kalamo General Hospital. But I want to state that the narrative is changing. We are now having our own main hospital, and I think in the coming budget, this main hospital is not fully operational, but just this year we have connected to the national grid. Then the next step is to put up a mortuary where people in the constituency will be able to deposit their dear ones before they finally prepare where to go and actually buy from. Now, to some extent, I would say, I can tell you that Dundumwezi, for me, I think it could not be the correct version because I've been visited before. I've been a member of parliament from 2006, and I've been visited before. Probably what the person asking is, I've heard in some situations where members of parliament do not visit their constituency. For me, I don't visit my constituency. I stay there. I stay with them. I stay with them.
And maybe on that same note, do you feel like maybe it should somehow be made a law where MPs stay in their respective constituencies? Because most people argue that they're out of touch with the problems. You find that the MP lives in another place, they only go there maybe to solicit votes. Would you be in support so that they are privy to the problems prevailing?
Let me tell you, you can be living in another place, but what is supposed to happen is the contact with your people. I think, in Tonga we say that, meaning when you are dead, you cannot cover yourself. I think what we are lacking is an institution that explains what an MP does, what time an MP is home, and what time an MP is away from home. I've belabored to explain these issues. Let me tell you, it's like a situation where you send your child into a boarding school in January, everything paid for, okay? And maybe let's give a scenario of a girl child who goes to school, everything is given to her. Then you see your child coming back in February. Like us in the village, the first thing that will ring in your mind is she carrying a pregnancy? Because you never expected your child to come home. The only time you expect your child to come home is probably April when the schools close. But look, even Parliament has got a timetable. Let's take, for instance, we open Parliament, official opening of Parliament for us is September. And we're only expected to go back home in December. So in between, it's not easy to visit. But for us, for me, talking for me, who stays in the village, and you can ask anyone from Parliament, they'll tell you, every Friday I'm driving home. Every Friday I'm driving home. On Friday I went home. I came back yesterday. Tomorrow is Women's Day. This evening I'm driving home. I'm coming back on Thursday morning. Friday I'll be driving home. It's my principle. It's my principle. Even the businessmen and women who come to Lusaka, Fridays after they sell their goats at Kawesha, they'll be downtown waiting for their MP. We move together. So for me, I think there is need probably to assist the MPs, to facilitate them to be getting to their constituencies. A number of them would want to go, but I think they are restricted in terms of resources. Talk of a person who comes to Lusaka from Kaputa. How many kilometers? I think it's close to 1,000, if not 1,000 plus. So for a person to drive to Kaputa, it's not easy. For me, it's 400 kilometers, 450. I'm right up in the constituency. So I think we have a new regime. People should give them time and see whether it's true leaders would continue visiting them during the elections. What I've seen here right now is a situation where people want to measure the New Dawn government with the PF. New Dawn government has been in government for, is it now 1 year, 8 months, against the 10 years. I think those are wrong apparatus. Give time also to reach a point where you can equally say, no, you had equal time of ruling, see what you've done. But true speaking, look at the under 2 years. See what we have achieved. Meal allowances, government is paying, free education, done. The health sector, over 11,000 recruited. Now monies are being released to constituencies. Surely, I think for me, you can see that this New Dawn government is heading somewhere. Yes, you may not be satisfied, but I think looking at where we are, where we are coming from, for me, I can tell you that we are waiting for better days. If you are not yet in your better days, give a bit of space to New Dawn and see what they'll be able to achieve. Just look at this road, the dual carriageway, Lusaka and Dora. Previously, the road was marked at, is it $2 billion? Where are we today? Less than that. In a normal situation, what could have happened was, since previously it was at $2 billion, what do you think could have happened? Maybe 2.5 billion. But what has dropped it? Prudence in the management of resources. So for me, I'm saying that I think we are on the very right trajectory. People should not start comparing an infant government to a government that ruled 10 years. You can compare, but you can see that right now, bigger things have happened or are happening. Previously, you could not put on any ready garment anywhere because you'd be suspected. But just walk out there in town today, you find everyone putting on any type of partly garia. No one will mind about you. You remember some of our ladies, their small businesses were gutted because they are printing UPND t-shirts. Gutted, just like that. So, even you probably, you could not even put on things like this red because you'd be suspected to be UPND. But now everyone is free. So these are some of the things, because a free society is the only one that can develop. So you can see that there is freedom has come back and people are able to move to any point and do any kind of businesses. So for me, I think we're okay.
In case you just tuned into the Camnet TV Breakfast Show, we are looking at issues affecting rural communities in Zambia, and in particular we have narrowed it down to Dudumwezi constituency, where we have the area member of parliament, Mr. Edgar Singobe, who is helping us discuss our topic this morning. Now, we are aware that government recently employed 30,000 teachers and 11,000 health workers. But when it comes to communities, if these teachers are deployed, we have heard on several occasions that they want to be transferred back again to Lusaka. How have you coped with that situation, that challenge in short?
You remember earlier on I did allude to the fact that there are certain problems which are good, and I said overcrowding to me is a good problem because it is within our ambit to attend to it. This is why we have decided as a constituency to go into accommodation or maybe infrastructure development. So I think this just requires patriotism to the young teachers who have been deployed to various rural communities. But you're also aware that government this time around has encouraged to employ people from areas where they're coming from. I don't think that is a very good situation for me, because people must be able to go anywhere where their services are required. But I think we are trying to sort out one problem where teachers, especially I think we have a problem with the girl child. Mm-hmm. These are the people who immediately after getting posted, we start receiving marriage certificates. But I think as a responsible government, we cannot deny someone's right. If someone comes to say she's getting married, as long as there is consent from both parents, who are you to say no? And I think it's a right that someone must be, at one point, get married, but they must be aware that such a person is replaced immediately. Because where he or she is going, she's going to add numbers and reduce numbers where she's coming from. So for me, what I've seen actually, ladies, be patriotic. Because that's where the larger problem comes from. Why do you decide to get married immediately you're posted?
Maybe someone should say only those who are already married should be posted there. I don't know.
No.
I'll give an example of my school was at Chipembi Girls Secondary School. So you find that almost all the teachers there were couples. I don't know how it happened, whether coincidentally or accidentally, but all the teachers from the head teacher, almost all of them were couples. So maybe that approach should be taken. I don't know. What's your thought on that?
No, it will not be democratic. Because for me, I believe that a Christian doesn't choose a spouse. God chooses your spouse as long as you strongly believe in him.
No, I think getting those who are already married, teachers.
Yeah, this is what I'm going to.
If the spouses are teachers.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to. So God will choose you a spouse. And you will not determine the place where your spouse will come from. So whether you find married couples, you can get married to anywhere. A lady who is posted from Dundumwes can get married here in Lusaka. But the question is, what are you doing to ensure that there's no gap? I think that's where my point is going to. Let us ensure that there are no gaps. I can tell you what happened in 2021. In trying to reduce voters in Dundumwezi, the previous regime transferred a lot of teachers, especially at management level in my constituency. A lot of them were transferred. And for me, I think they had brought in some teachers to manipulate. I'm just speculating because these head teachers were, why only transferring? Because they knew that these are the people who are in the management of the elections. And it took a lot of time for this teacher to be replaced. This is when I'm receiving, maybe under the 30,000 teachers who were recruited, I received a number of teachers, and government did promote a number of teachers. We had a situation where teachers were recruited, never promoted, they remained on same positions for years. So to narrow it down, what I'm saying is, I think we've seen a number of our teachers, female teachers, getting married, and why should you only be married in towns? That's being unfair. So I think I'm calling for patriotism. In an event that is proved that such a person has been married, can we as government immediately replace that teacher? But also the recruitment of teachers within the areas where they are coming from. I think it is helping. It is answering that part of the challenge that we have faced. Indeed, a number of teachers have opted. One of the reasons why teachers leave is the kind of maybe the road infrastructure that we have. Number two, lack of social amenities. Health is not there. Anything that you want to have to take about, maybe like Dundumwezi, it's about 700 kilometers away from the nearest town. So to get to town in that state of our roads, it's not easy. So people always want to go and stay where life is easy. But I want to say, like I've indicated, that I think the narrative is changing. We have better roads, and we are being electrified. The Minister of Energy is electrifying. The Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security has also made a program to buy Land Cruisers for our security. So everything is coming in place. I don't think there will be any more need for people to rush into urban living, our rural constituents unattended to.
Have we seen progress in terms of the construction of healthy facilities?
Yes. I can tell you that, like I've indicated, we have a mini hospital that is almost 100%. But I want to tell you that Dundumwezi is one of those constituencies that never benefited from the clinics that the PF government were giving to all constituencies. We were allocated 4 each. I never received a single one. And this is why we are saying, as Dundumwezi, we were seriously sidelined by the previous regime. Why is it that, what would one would explain in a situation where these clinics were pronounced, I think, the first time the late president addressed Parliament? 10 years down the line, not a single one. They only punctured 2 boreholes in the sites where we had allocated. But through CDF, we've put up such infrastructure. We have over 10 health centers in 8 wards. And we are still planning 2 right now are under construction. Before the end of this year, we'll have 12 health centers in the constituency. So we are getting there. Plus the main hospital that we are now electrifying. So in health, we have reduced distances, but I think we still have certain areas that still walk long distances. Because I believe wherever there is a school, there must be a health center, because it means that there's a good population that should be attended to. So it's not every school that has a health center. So I think with the resources that we have been given as constituencies, will be able to address such challenges where they are still existing. Yeah.
Now we do have a message here from our viewer who says, rural areas lack industries, hence high levels of poverty. So you earlier indicated about maybe the electrification, but anyway, you said it is going to be done. Now that is it about 1 million which has been gotten from CDF anyway to complement that. But my question really is there potential in Dundumwezi to construct industries, and if so, which industries in particular? In which areas?
There is potential. You know, it is very difficult to remove my mind from agriculture.
We don't want the traditional ones, we want the technological sector or anything else. Yeah. Look,
you talk to me, you ask me questions that will be inclined to agriculture, because, I've been born there. And, I've been trained to be a livestock farmer. I've been trained to do all sorts of... But let me tell you this. The New Dawn government in the past farming season have helped the people of Dundumwezi to diversify from the traditional maize growing to other crops. Now, if we are electrified, I can tell you that we are able to produce enough cooking oil. Right now we are using diesel propelled, and they are very difficult. They are not easy. You are talking of driving 70 kilometers to go and buy fuel. So for me, I think we can go into value addition massively. We have grown a lot of soybeans this year if you went to Dundumwezi. So the issue of fertilizer is no longer a problem, because people have known and seen that actually soybeans growing is more lucrative than maize. And my fear now is we'll start having a deficit of maize in the constituency, because people last year were given 550 kwacha, 50 kg of soybeans. And I'm one of the farmers. To tell the truth, I think I'm not boastful, but I'm just leading the way. I think this year no one beats me in soybeans growing in my constituency.
Interesting.
And this is why I'm always home. I'm always home inspecting. And you don't believe that I took my wife to school after 10 years in marriage. She went to college after 20 years in marriage. And she's busy supervising the farm. And she's doing very fine. So, if we can do that, I can tell you that we can go in cooking oil, okay? We can go in...
Do you grow a lot of sunflower as well?
That is one area. Previously, we used to grow sunflower at a very small scale. But now, people have gone commercial. All you need to do is to assist them with the correct seed. And you know that in sunflower, I think we are lacking the correct seed. People are doing the traditional seed, which is not very good. Maybe it produces very little cooking, but at least people are. So I think those who are in sunflower growing should assist our small-scale farmers in giving them the correct seed. So, my sister, to cut the story short, we can go into producing of cooking oil. We can go into production of livestock feed. We can put our own abattoirs. Why should we endanger our small-scale farmers coming to Lusaka to sell goats? We can open our own abattoirs. Okay? We can have our own milk centers. Those are some of the things that I see that can actually be lucrative in Dundumue's constituency. Of course, with a better road, if we can be given all-weather kind of a road, wow, the constituency will be ready to take off to any level of development. What is hindering us now is a situation where we've had no road. Maybe you may also wish to know that the PF regime, sorry, it's like I'll be going back because, can you imagine if there was no yesterday? Would we have been seated here? Definitely no. It's only those who were there yesterday, probably who can say something. In the previous regime, you heard about the Dundumuezi road. And they were painting a picture outside there like it's all-weather road. Like it's a tarmac road. 3 or 4 choppers landed in my constituency to come and commission this road in 2021. I can report to you and to the nation that this road is completely washed away. World Bank funded road, washed away. But we were told it's a climatic resilience road. So, I'm actually going to Parliament to ask why we were given a law deal. The head of state coming to commission a gravel road, and after one rain season on the road, the entire road is gone? Unbelievable. What we need is all-weather kind of a road. You know, people say where a good road goes, development follows. So us, once we are given, if one of our roads is upgraded to a bituminous standard, even if we are given CDF friends, we cannot reach that stage of probably upgrading our road to bituminous. It is just like a starter. With what we have, we're going to start doing our small roads. But what we need is to ensure that we have a bituminous standard of a road so that development can take off. So, coming down to your question is, there is potential to diversify into those areas that I've indicated.
Interesting. Then as we come to the conclusion, maybe just touching on the issue of floods, what is the current situation in terms of floods, and maybe overall what would you like to see in the constituency given the problems that you have highlighted as we come to the conclusion?
Thank you very much. In conclusion, I want to state that we have a situation arising from the construction of the same road that I've just talked about. This road passes through the national park, Kafue National Park. And it has created some kind of an embankment. Probably those who designed the road did not do a better job. For me, that's what I would conclude. Sorry to say that. I'm not a specialist, but I'm from the layman point of view, the designers didn't do a better job. Because what has happened now is that the road has created an embankment, kind of, and water is not flowing from the high areas to the low areas. Now, when the water comes onto this road, it has collected on the eastern side and is not flowing to the western side into the Kafue National Park, joining maybe the Nahila River into, I don't know what it flows. It flows this water, I think, into Kafue River. So water has collected to an extent that a lot of homes have been submerged. This has happened twice now. Like I indicated, the road was commissioned in 2021. So 2021-2022 season, we had a same scenario of floods, which were never there before. 2022-2023, we have a worse situation. So for me, I want to ask government probably to go back to World Bank, take them back, inspect the road. Do they subscribe to the kind of arrangement which is there? For me, I think there is need to go back to redesign the road. Because there's no way that a road creates a challenge of that kind where all those who are on the eastern side of the road are submerged in water. So probably we needed more culverts so that water can flow out nicely. So that is one area I think that requires some kind of an immediate solution. But I want to tell you that for the first time, I have had places like Chizun Bridge, which was swept away by heavy water. It was built in 2000, I'm told, before I went there as a member of parliament, and washed away, I think, 2 years later. I've made my case to DMMU. Then, there's no single time that government came. We had a meeting with the Chief Marcher and Chief Chikanta and the people around that bridge. There was no government representative who joined us, despite having extended an invitation for them to come and see. We have lost a lot of lives at this crossing point. I want to tell you one thing, which I have keenly followed. When you're driving to Kalomo, there's a place called Mukwera. One person there was bashed. Immediately they put up speed humps. You come to Karea there, another person was bashed. Immediately they put up speed traps there. So I'm asking myself, we've lost more than 10 lives on this crossing point. Why hasn't government? Why did government fail to come and address that particular challenge? So we were not regarded as Zambians previously. But I want to tell you that for the first time this year, the Southern Province Command did visit this area that I've talked about in Dundumwezi, where the road cut in 3 points. And I'm sure something is happening. Just visiting, to us, it shows that the government is concerned about the movement of people between the two districts. That's Kalomo and Itestezi. Right now, people from Itestezi who would want to come to Choma, which is their administrative office, they have to pass through Lusaka. Look at that distance. And we're talking of a teacher who has a challenge and he wants to see his provincial education officer in Choma. This teacher has to come to Lusaka. How many kilometers to Itestezi? From Lusaka to Choma, how many kilometers is there? How much money is this teacher receiving? Is it good that we can subject teachers to that? So the government has visited us, and very soon I'm sure they're going to visit this particular area, which has been cut the second time now. 2021-2022 season, 2022-2023 season. So I think they are addressing this challenge as government.
quite interesting there. Thank you very much, Honorable, for joining us on this interesting breakfast show. I'm sure we've heard a number of issues that are affecting not only your constituents, but we definitely hope to see improvement with the CDF by next year.
Thank you so much for having me at Camnet TV. I just want to appeal that call me after some time so that we can prove what we've been doing by showing you what we are doing and what the people have reached, how people's lives have improved by completely indicating and even them. Maybe one time I should come with one of the constituents from the
we'll do that and try by all
But I think the best is for you to go there.
We'll go on the ground. And
because I may bring something
exactly,
that you have
exactly.
So I'm very delighted to be here and thank you very much for hosting me.
This is where we do come to the end of Tuesday's edition of the Camnet Breakfast Show. Thank you for those who joined us via Facebook through participation, as well as for those who are calling us, who are joined by Dundumwezi Constituency Member of Parliament, Honorable Edgar Singombe, who helped us discuss issues affecting rural communities. This is where we come to the end, but do remember to join Patrick Soko and Sharon Kalimbula tomorrow as they take him to politics. From us, it's until next week, Monday. Have a blessed Tuesday and happy Women's Day tomorrow.